No one wants to admit it, but the truth is simple and brutal. While you strive only to be good, someone around you is becoming irreplaceable. And when that moment arrives, when everyone realizes that there is someone whose absence has a real impact, who moves systems, who defines results, who decides the flow of things, it won't be you who is at the center. It will be the one who understood before all of us the silent rule of power. The world respects those who cannot afford to lose, not those who try to please. From an early age, we are trained to fit into molds, to repeat patterns, to imitate behaviors, to study like everyone else studies, to work like everyone else works. The system educates excellent, replaceable individuals, people who can be replaced at any moment without anything really changing. And we call this normality. But normality is just a name we give to mediocrity when it comes in large quantities. Nietzsche said that most people live with their heads down, obeying ideas that are not their own, like lambs accepting the destiny given to them. Machiavelli, in turn, warned that those who depend too much on the favor of others remain always fragile, always vulnerable, always at the mercy of the goodwill of others. Combine these two views, and you have the perfect portrait of the common person, easily dominated and easily discarded. Have you ever felt that? That unsettling feeling that if you disappeared from certain people's lives, nothing would change, that your work would continue, your messages would be quickly replaced by others, your efforts would become vague memories in a short time? The truth can hurt, but it also sets you free. Because only when you recognize that you are becoming invisible do you begin to seek what truly matters, impact. And impact is born when you become necessary, not through the force of insistence, but through the force of difference. Imagine a room full of competent people. They all know what they're doing. They all perform their functions well. But there's only one who knows something the others don't. One who makes decisions no one else dares to make. One who solves the problems everyone avoids. This person doesn't need to shout to be heard. Their presence is already an argument. That's the essence of silent power, when you don't seek to be important, but to be unavoidable. Most people are content with the security of the ordinary. They want stability, automatic recognition, risk-free rewards. But the world doesn't deliver true value to those who ask for permission to exist. Those who wait to be chosen are always disposable. Those who position themselves as indispensable create the rules. The irreplaceable don't beg for respect. They are missed. And being missed is a higher form of authority. Nietzsche said that few are capable of bearing the weight of their own greatness on their shoulders. This requires courage to break expectations, to abandon the comfort of being equal, to endure the critical gaze of those who do not understand those who refuse to be small. Machiavelli would add that the strong do not justify themselves, they only become necessary. When others realize they need you to continue, it is too late to ignore you. Life is a game that many play without realizing it. The rule is cruel. Either you become a key piece on the board or you're just another pawn waiting to be replaced. The world has no pity for the dispensable because there are too many of them. It's like a saturated market where everyone offers the same thing. If you like everyone else, you're like no one. What do you do that no one else does? What do you deliver that cannot be replicated? What is the invisible mark you leave on what you touch? The answer to these questions defines who will be remembered and who will be erased. Being irreplaceable isn't about ego, it's about strategy. It's not about asking for recognition of your worth, it's about creating value that no one can ignore. It's about mastering your own narrative before the world writes your story for you. It's about developing a uniqueness so clear and so strong that any attempt to replace you creates a void, and that void speaks for you. It screams, something is missing here. You don't need constant applause. You just need that when you're not around, everything stops working as it should. The irreplaceable one doesn't try to be part of the crowd. They become the pillar that supports something bigger than themselves, the one whose removal causes collapse. And this isn't achieved with ordinary talent, but with fierce discipline and unwavering purpose. The transformation begins with realization. There is no power in being the same. The power lies in what only you can be. So think for a moment, what will happen tomorrow if you simply don't show up? Will the world remain the same? If the answer is yes, then you haven't even begun. And it's okay to admit that, because the first step towards the extraordinary is recognizing that you've been stuck in the ordinary. From here, everything becomes possible. But nothing will be easy. The journey to becoming irreplaceable is lonely, challenging, and full of sacrifices. And only those who endure this journey will be able to claim the place that cannot be taken by another. This is the first truth of this path. Real power is born when its absence becomes a problem. And from now on, you are about to discover how this unbearable absence is built. Because in the game of life, only the exceptional survive the test of time. You may believe you possess great value. You may truly dedicate yourself, work hard, and give your best every day. But here's the blow reality delivers to those who haven't yet learned to see it. True value doesn't matter if the world doesn't perceive it. How many brilliant people have you seen trapped in jobs where no one notices their competence? How many talents are wasted in silence because no one recognizes what they carry within themselves? Life rewards what is perceived, not merely what is true. The world doesn't read mind, only sign. There's a profound difference between being good and seeming good, between being useful and being seen as indispensable. Someone can be extraordinary, but if there's no contrast, if no one sees how much that person would be missed, they'll be treated like anyone else, and this happens all the time. You've probably experienced it. When you do something excellently and no one thanks you, no one comments, no one notices. But when you make a single mistake, everything changes. What's wrong there? Perception. It's the lens that defines value and, consequently, who has power. Imagine two workers. The first is dedicated, delivers everything ahead of schedule, solves problems quietly, without asking for credit. The second is average but makes a point of announcing every small achievement, involves others, creates a narrative, shows visible results. At the end of the year, who do you think will be promoted? Meritocracy is a comfortable myth. Machiavelli already knew that whoever controls the impression controls destiny. Nietzsche knew that whoever does not reveal their strength is treated as weak. The world rewards those who make a point of clearly demonstrating their impact. The perception of value arises from contrast. If everyone delivers the same, no one stands out. If you do everything and are never absent, your presence seems guaranteed. Human beings despise what they believe is always available. We only feel the water when it's lacking. We only value the air when it's absent. We only notice a person when their absence creates a void that no one can fill. The law of scarcity has dominated human psychology since we existed, and those who ignore this law condemn themselves to be invisible. You may have experienced something like this, always being present, always available, always helping, until the moment you realize that even so, nobody values you. This isn't ingratitude. It's nature. When you don't create scarcity, you become part of the landscape. And the landscape is beautiful, but nobody misses you when you're gone. The cruel question you should ask yourself is, if I disappear today, who will truly feel the impact? If the answer is nobody, then the real value you believe you have hasn't yet transformed into perceived value. Often you may be carrying a potential that hasn't yet encountered contrast, like a light lit at midday, shining unseen. This isn't about arrogance, but about strategy. The world won't beg you to shine. You need to choose when and where to turn on your light so that it becomes impossible to ignore. In saturated environments, the extraordinary becomes commonplace. The life-changing difference lies in choosing the places where your uniqueness generates immediate impact. Perceived value also stems from the narrative. It's not enough to be capable. Others need to see meaning in your ability. The story you tell about yourself creates the framework through which the world will interpret you. The same skill can be seen as something simple or as something rare and irreplaceable. What defines this is not the skill itself, but how it is presented. There are people who speak little, but every sentence they utter changes something around them. There are others who speak too much, but nothing changes. Which one has perceived value? One of the greatest human pains is discovering that being useful isn't enough. Power arises when you become necessary. Necessary to the point that your absence causes discomfort. Necessary to the point that replacing you is more expensive than keeping you. Necessary to the point that people fear losing you. It is at this threshold that true authority is born. And this authority doesn't need to shout to exist. It simply imposes itself through the silence of absence. Nietzsche said that each individual has something unique within them, but few have the courage to live that uniqueness. We prefer to hide among others because being different generates risk. However, nothing is more risky than being the same. The same is easily dismissed. The different is always feared, desired, respected. Machiavelli would add that the wise prince cultivates his image in such a way that no one can imagine the world without him. If it's possible to remove you from the game without serious consequences, you were never really playing for real. You need to start building that contrast. You need to show that what you do is not common. You need to make it clear that there is an emotional, social, or intellectual cost to losing you. Perceived value is born when people understand that you are not just another one. And this construction requires strategy, choosing battles, and above all, self-knowledge. Because before convincing the world of who you are, you need to know clearly what you offer that no one else offers. From this point on, the journey becomes more intense. Because it's not enough to create perceived value. You will have to learn to control your own scarcity. And that requires courage to stop being as available as you've always been. It requires discipline to moderate your presence. It requires strength to let them miss you. And this will only be the beginning of the transformation. If you want to become irreplaceable, you will have to learn to be desired. And desire always arises from the possibility of loss. Building scarcity around yourself isn't about disappearing. It's about appearing in a way that no one can predict. It's about creating a rhythm where every time you show up, there's a consequence. Abundant people become noise. Scarce people become a point of reference. Have you ever noticed how some individuals enter a room and immediately everyone wonders what's so special about them? It's not magic, it's strategy. They understand that when everything is available all the time, nothing really matters. But when something rare appears, everyone pays attention. Humans have always valued what they can lose. The mere possibility of absence creates anxiety, desire, and interest. Scarcity is not indifference. Scarcity is control. It's knowing that your presence needs to be an event, not an automatic habit. When you're always there, always ready, always willing, you become a predictable object. And nothing is less noticeable than what becomes routine in the lives of others. Have you ever wondered why that friend who disappears and reappears out of nowhere always gets more attention than you? Who were there the whole time? Why does the colleague who does the bare minimum but knows when to show up receive more recognition than the one who constantly gives their all? The problem isn't your effort, but your excessive consistency. You don't leave room for them to miss you, and those who aren't missed will never be remembered. What if you started saying yes less often? What if you started controlling access to what you offer? Human curiosity flourishes where there is mystery. Nietzsche said that the soul needs heights to be seen. To show oneself completely is to kill fascination. What would become of a hero if everyone knew his secrets? What would become of a revolutionary idea if it were always within everyone's reach? The rare feeds the imagination. The common stifles desire. There's a silent technique that few understand: strategic withdrawal. It's not about disappearing. It's about retreating at the exact moment when everyone expects you to give more. It's about leaving a conversation at its peak. It's about refusing that task that would make you seem like just another favor doer. It's about not over-explaining when someone wants to access your thoughts. Have you ever tried to interrupt a smile before it ends? Or to cut off a sentence at its most powerful moment? Whoever controls the ending controls the other person's memory. What if you disappeared for a while now? Who would notice? Who would perceive the silence? Who would look for you? If none of these answers come strongly, the warning is right before your eyes. Your presence has become too obvious. And in a world crowded with obvious presences, only the enigmatic stand out. Machiavelli knew. Those who can withdraw without losing influence are the ones who truly rule. True leaders are not those who are always in the spotlight, but those who appear only when it is necessary for everyone to see them. Scarcity is also built by what you choose not to give. Every favor, every piece of advice, every minute donated carries an invisible price. If you give without limit, you become cheap. And everything that is cheap is bought in bulk. Everything that is expensive requires effort. Value is not only in what you do, but in how difficult it is to access it. Ask yourself, what do you offer that should be rare? What part of yourself is being given to those who haven't yet proven they deserve it? Have you ever noticed how some compliments only come when you start to distance yourself? How people only recognize how much you can endure when you decide to stop enduring? It's because scarcity reveals the truth. Those who truly see your value will be the first to feel your absence. Those who never saw it will never miss you. And that hurts, but it liberates, because you begin to see where your strength truly makes an impact and where it was being wasted. What if you started measuring your actions like someone protecting a treasure? What if every gesture you made had a clear intention? Life changes when you understand that you shouldn't be everywhere at once. What is precious only appears in decisive moments, and that's what makes it unforgettable. Excessive presence hurts more than it helps. Rare presence saves, restores, transforms. Controlling your scarcity is controlling the narrative of who you are. It's understanding that distance produces perspective. It's accepting that sometimes you need to withdraw to grow away from the eyes that don't see. Nietzsche said that whoever wants to become a giant must first endure isolation. Not the isolation of being alone, but the isolation of not being immediately understood. Are you willing to pay that price? Because those who seek greatness cannot desire an audience all the time. Now imagine this scene. You decide not to show up today. You decide not to respond so quickly. You decide to prioritize what builds your uniqueness. What happens around you? Does the world remain the same? Or is something moving in your direction, trying to pull you back? The actions of others reveal your perceived value. Those who chase after you show dependence. Those who don't notice your absence show that you haven't yet mastered the art of being absent. Nothing you're learning here is simple. Creating scarcity requires emotional discipline. You'll have to fight the urge to prove yourself. You'll have to swallow the anxiety of being forgotten. You'll have to trust that the value you're building is greater than the need to constantly demonstrate its existence. But those who sustain this strategy achieve a result that few attain, becoming someone whose absence is unbearable. And that, definitively, is the first step towards real power. Emotional and social dependence is the most comfortable prison humanity has ever built. You don't notice the bars because they are made of glances, compliments, and expectations, and yet they keep you obedient, trapped by the fear of disappointing, the fear of being excluded, the fear of being alone. It's curious how society celebrates those who give of themselves, but consumes every last drop from those who don't know how to say enough. People may love you, but often they love more what you offer than who you truly are. Nietzsche knew this. He said that whoever lives for the approval of others is merely a shadow. Machiavelli would add, whoever depends on the love of the people falls as soon as the wind changes direction, and it always does. There's a famous Harvard University study on relationships that shows something shocking. When someone always says yes, the human brain begins to understand this as an obligation, not a choice. In other words, the more you sacrifice for others, the less they recognize your effort. The more you mold yourself to please them, the less they perceive your value. Have you ever felt the weight of this? Have you noticed that the more you try to keep someone close, the more that person distances themselves? Dependence is the language of desperation, and desperation has a smell. Whoever smells that smell stays away. Imagine two simple scenarios. In the first, you send a message and anxiously await a reply. In the second, you reply when you want to. You speak when you have something to say, and not when loneliness overwhelms you. In which of these scenarios do you seem powerful? The world operates on a silent truth. Those who need less command more. This doesn't mean despising others, but it means not begging for crumbs of attention. When you put yourself in the position of an emotional beggar, you hand over your throne to someone who doesn't even know how to govern. There are people who specialize in living off you. They always want something. Your help, your time, your shoulder to cry on. But when you need them, something happens. They disappear, make excuses, change the subject. Do you think this is a coincidence? It's not. They're just used to using you. And you let them. Dependency doesn't arise because someone is evil. It arises because you think you need to be needed to be loved. However, when someone only wants you for their usefulness, the moment someone else can use you more, you will be replaced. This is cruel, but liberating, because from here you can choose another way to relate, no longer out of neediness, but out of real presence. There's a true, almost unbelievable story about an employee at a large company in Japan. He had been there for so many years, performing his duties flawlessly, that everyone believed he was indispensable. Until one day he decided to take a vacation. 1 week, 2 weeks, and nothing changed. The company functioned perfectly without him. When he returned, he was fired. He discovered the hard way that his dedication hadn't made him necessary, only convenient. His dependence on the job had turned him into a replaceable part. From that moment on, he rebuilt his life, understanding that the mistake wasn't working well, but working as if no one could survive without him. The truth? They could. What if this is happening to you right now, silently? What if you're trapped by people, environments, or habits that make you believe you'll fall apart without them? Dependency begins when you forget that you lived perfectly well before those bonds existed. Have you noticed that many people only start to be respected when they distance themselves? That's because you taught others not to value you. And now you need to teach them the opposite. You are not an accessory. You are the center. It's not an option. It's a consequence. But this change requires courage. The courage to say no for the first time. The courage not to explain your absence. The courage not to try to justify your limitations. Machiavelli said that the most vulnerable of men is he who depends on the loyalty of others without having the means to make them fear losing it. It's not about intimidation, but about showing that you are whole in yourself. When your peace doesn't depend on anyone, your presence becomes a luxury. Nietzsche called this the self-sufficiency of the spirit, when your value is not a public negotiation, but an internal decree. Are you afraid of being alone? Then that's proof that you still don't know who you are, because those who know themselves prefer their own company to any presence that weakens their essence. Emotional dependence is the enemy of greatness. Those who need acceptance cannot lead. Those who need consensus cannot innovate. Those who need approval cannot command. You were born to be more than just company. You can be destiny. From the moment you decide that no one has the power to destroy you emotionally, something changes in your posture, your voice, your gaze. You become that person whose energy doesn't beg, but attracts, whose mind doesn't follow, but creates its own path, whose silence is more powerful than any speech from someone trying to persuade you. Now, ask yourself the right question. If you lost everything today, would you still be left? If the answer is yes, then you are on the path to true authority. If the answer is no, then it's time to reshape your life, your relationships, your worth. You don't have to be dependent on anyone's attention to be important. When you stop begging for affection, you become the one whose absence bothers. And when your absence hurts more than your presence, you have ascended. You have become someone who doesn't hold up the world. The world tries to hold you up. From here on out, the game changes sides. You're no longer begging for a place. You're choosing who can occupy space in your life. You're no longer fearing abandonment. You're observing who truly deserves to stay. Dependency dies when awareness is born, because emotional freedom isn't about distancing yourself from everyone, but about being able to be with anyone without losing yourself. The next step is transforming that freedom into power, and that only happens when people realize that losing you has a real cost. That's the moment you stop being an option and become a priority. You might believe you've already figured out the game, that all it takes is value, being rare, becoming someone whose absence causes discomfort. But there's a point in the journey where most give up, precisely when they're closest to becoming irreplaceable, because the world doesn't so easily tolerate those who break the mold. Those who stand out too much become a threat. Those who don't bend begin to attract glances that mix admiration and resentment. And at that moment, being strong is no longer enough. You need to be strategic. The final stage of your transformation depends not only on what you build, but on how you stand tall when everything tries to dismantle your new position. And here's the hardest truth. The greater the value, the greater the risk. Those who become a reference also become targets. One detail that almost no one notices is that power rarely manifests itself through shouting. Real power works in silence, but it is felt by everyone. You enter a place, and without saying anything, you occupy the space. People adjust their tone of voice, change their posture, measure their words. You don't threaten, but something within you compels them to think twice. The simple fact of being there changes the atmosphere. This is not arrogance. It is presence, and presence cannot be faked. It is built over years of discipline, in decisions that no one saw, and sacrifices that no one appreciated. Most people can't wait until the world notices. Will you be able to? At this stage, the tests become more sophisticated. People who seemed like friends begin to question your choices. Professionals who previously ignored you try to get closer, but not to contribute, to try to understand you and copy you. They want your secret, not your growth. And the more you expand, the more these infiltrators multiply. Some will call you different, others will call you crazy. And that's good. Madness is the name that conformism gives to what it cannot control. Have you ever noticed how those who are emotionally dependent on you start creating small acts of sabotage? How unexpected little requests appear when you're about to move forward. Stay a little longer, ... double quotes. Why are you changing? You're not being yourself. These phrases are traps disguised as affection. They are attempts to bring you back to a size they can tolerate, because when you grow, you force others to look in the mirror, and almost no one can face their own failure head on. But there is an even more dangerous adversary, yourself. When you begin to gain respect, recognition, and open doors, something inside you can draw you back to comfort. It's as if a voice whispers, "Now is enough. There's no need to go further." But this thought is the final blow of the mediocre world. It doesn't want to destroy you. It only wants to keep you small, subtle, sweet, and lethal. If you give in, all your effort becomes just a moment of brilliance before oblivion. That's why Nietzsche said that true greatness is remaining true to your own path, even when glory tries to distract you. From here on out, your attitude needs to change. You're no longer competing with people. You're competing with time, with entropy, with the natural tendency for everything to return to normal. Your mission isn't to conquer a place. It's to prevent the world from pushing you back into the ordinary. Reaching the top isn't enough. You need to learn how not to fall, and that can only be done with a kind of strength that doesn't appear in muscles or words, but in daily choices that no one sees. You need to be disciplined when no one is watching. You need to be firm when no one can applaud you. You need to be true to yourself when no one understands you. The question now is straightforward. Are you willing to pay the price of being irreplaceable? Because the price isn't money, status, or success. The price is isolation. It's staying away from those who hold you back. It's losing the company of those who only valued you when you were weaker. The price is learning to walk alone, knowing that many will only return when it's convenient for them. But all of this is worth it for one simple reason: freedom. When you make yourself irreplaceable, no one governs your time, your choices, or your peace. And that is the highest form of power that exists. The time has come for the decisions that truly matter. The time when you prove, not to others, but to yourself, that you weren't born to be a disposable piece. You've overcome the effort phase, conquered the building phase, and reached the sustainability phase. If you continue, you will not only have value, you will become the benchmark. While most are still trying to fit in, you will be the mold. The world will always try to diminish those who dare to be great. But there is a truth that no one can erase. Everything that tries to bring you down only confirms that you are above. You're very close, closer than you imagine. Part 5 is the threshold. You can stop now and go back to being just another person, or you can take the next step and enter the territory of those who will never be forgotten. Everything you've done up to this point has led you to this, a preview of the inevitable. In the next part, the conclusion will reveal the final move, the crown that few dare to claim, the ultimate secret of who truly becomes irreplaceable. We've reached a point where words cease to be mere ideas and begin to demand action. You've already understood that being irreplaceable isn't a title someone bestows. It's an achievement no one can take away. It's the sum of silent choices, constant self-improvement, and the courage to contradict the world when it wants to see you diminished. And now, at the end of this journey, there's only one question that matters. What are you going to do with all of this? Because it's pointless to understand fear, master absence, build presence, strengthen your mind, and learn to protect your worth if you remain a prisoner of hesitation. The opportunity to transform yourself lies not in what you've already experienced, but in what you decide from now on. And the world, indifferent and competitive as always, won't wait for you. The truth is unavoidable. You will be tested, not tomorrow, not in the distant future. You will be tested as soon as you close this video. Someone will doubt you. Someone will try to deceive you with small distractions disguised as urgency. Someone will tempt you with comfort, with easy compliments, or with the false peace of remaining the same. You will feel the temptation to return to the pattern, to fit into the space they expect you to occupy. But if you truly want to be irreplaceable, you will need to face the discomfort of expanding. Growing hurts. Evolving requires composure. Remaining true to your essence comes at a high price, but paying that price transforms fear into fuel and turns you into someone who cannot be ignored. From this moment on, you need to apply 3 movements without looking back. First, choose what you will become excellent at. Not good, excellent. Good people are many. Excellent people are few and therefore worth more. Second, impose scarcity. Don't always be available. Don't give your energy to those who don't know how to value it. Don't explain yourself to those who have already decided not to understand you. Excessive supply destroys value. Third, strengthen your emotional and social independence. Never allow your peace to depend on another human being. True strength begins when no one else has the power to break you from the inside. These 3 decisions will immediately set you apart. And when that happens, you'll be seen differently. Some will try to walk alongside you. Others will hope for your downfall. Many will pretend not to notice your progress, while deep down they wonder how you manage to change. And that's a sign that you're on the right track. The doubt of others is always a disguised form of recognition. When they start calling you arrogant, understand this. They're simply bothered by the fact that you've finally started treating yourself as someone of value. And whoever provokes this discomfort is already above average. But remember, being irreplaceable doesn't mean being perfect. It means moving forward while everyone else stops. It means taking the wheel when life tries to force you to be a passenger. It means having the courage to build something that no one can copy. Yourself. Nietzsche said that the greatest act of rebellion is being who you are. But in today's world, being authentic is a daily struggle. Therefore, every step forward you take is already a declaration of power. You don't need to shout to be heard. When you transform yourself, the noise happens around you. Silence has always been the natural habitat of the strong. And perhaps you still doubt. Perhaps you think it's too late to awaken this version of yourself. But it's not. Life isn't defined by what you've done so far, but by what you decide to do from today onward. What brought you here was a story. What takes you forward is a choice. You didn't come into the world to be a disposable piece, a presence that no one notices, a name that gets lost in the crowd. You exist because you have something that only you can offer. And if the world hasn't yet seen that value, it's because you haven't yet shown it with enough intensity. This video is not an ending. It's the first step in a phase that begins now. The step where you stop asking for permission and start claiming space. Where you become the reference point. Where your absence weighs more than any ordinary presence. You are already aware of your own power, and that cannot be taken back. The question now is not if you will become irreplaceable, but when. And I sincerely hope the answer is immediately. So here's the most direct invitation possible. If this content has transformed you in any way, if any phrase came as a shock and left as clarity, if you realize that yes, there is potential within you that the world doesn't yet know, and then help me get this message to those who also need to awaken. Like this video, comment even anonymously, even with just one word, and subscribe to the channel. This simple gesture isn't just engagement. It's your first public move affirming, I am choosing to be more. I am choosing my place. And when you decide like that, nothing can replace you, because from now on, you are unavoidable.